Welcome back, all of you. Today, let us see some basic concepts of oceanography. That is, what today we will be studying ocean relief and the importance of continental shelves. And of course, there will be certain questions which might come for competitive exams like UPSC, etc. Here are certain major ocean relief features. So, the various ocean features they can be divided into major and minor ocean features. So the ocean relief features they can be divided into the major and minor. So in the major ocean relief features, these are the various ocean features. That is the continental shelf, then comes the continental slope, then comes the continental rise, the deep sea plain or the abyssal plains. Now let us see about each of these. So first of all, let us see about the continental shelf. What is the continental shelf? So you can see over here that the crust can be divided into two parts. This is the continental crust and then the oceanic crust. So the crust can be constituted of, can be divided into two parts. Please remember this, the continental crust and then comes the oceanic crust. And see, this is how the continental crust, this is the continental crust. See how this slopes, see how this is sloping towards the sea. Or you can say how this continental crust is sloping towards the oceanic crust. So, or you can say that the seaward extension of the land. So the land over here, it slopes down into the sea. So this area, this area over here, this entire area over here, this is the continental shelf. One of the most important features that you might be noticing over here is that see the nature of the slope here. The slope, as you can see over here, it is very gentle, it is sloping down. It is not a very steep slope, it is sloping down. So this is a feature of the continental shelf region. It is gently sloping and generally the gradient is not more than 1 degree. Sometimes it is even less. So it is not a very steep slope as you can see over here. And over here, this is a sea. This is a sea. Just see the depth of the sea. Just see the depth of the sea. You can see and see the depth of the sea over here. So one can easily understand that the sea depth over here is very shallow. So this is another feature of the continental shelf. The feature of the continental shelf that it contains shallow seas or gulfs. There can be various gulfs also. And overall, the continental shelf area of all the oceans, if you take together all the oceans, together they cover about 7.5% of the total area of the oceans. And the shelf area, this till here is the shelf. The shelf over here, it typically ends at a very steep slope. After this, you see a very steep slope is there. So this point over here, from where the gentleness is ceasing to a steep slope, this point is called the shelf break. And the continental shelf, this may contain because the various rivers, the glaciers, etc. will drain out onto the sea. So this continental shelf can contain various rivers, glaciers, etc. And because the rivers are draining over here, so you will be finding massive sedimentary deposits also in this region. Now, what happens because of sedimentary deposits? When there is sedimentary deposit over time, then that gives rise to various fossil fuels like petroleum, etc. So this was in very short about continental shelf. Let us now see about the other features. Now, continental shelf types. Now, when we say about the types of continental shelves, the continental, it can be divided into two types based on the different sediments, based upon the origin of its formation. Now, if this is an example of a continental shelf. Now, if this area is a glaciated shelf, that is what do you mean by glaciated shelf? Maybe it has got various mixture of various eosic or deposition features owing to glaciers. So maybe over here there was there was some during ice age, there were some glaciers over here, or even if not in ice age, over here various ice sheets, because of ice sheets various depositional features or erosive features have resulted. Like for example, if this area, like for example over here in this area, we have ice sheets, then the ice sheets will develop into what? The ice sheets will definitely have some erosive or deposition landforms. We know about the glacier landforms or the glaciated landforms. So there might be various glaciated landforms if this particular area is covered with ice because of ice sheets or glaciers, etc. So that is a kind of section of continental shelf. Or if this particular area has got various coral reefs, like over here, you can see over here that this is various coral reefs, the ribbon reefs, the GBR reefs, that is a Great Barrier Reef, etc., etc. So various coral reefs. That is, if the continental shelf has got various coral reefs, then this will be known as coral reef shelf. What is coral reefs? We will see about that in the upcoming slides. If the shelf has got some large delta, this is the Nile Delta. If the continental shelf has some dendritic valleys of some rivers, or if it can be, if over here along the coast there may be some young mountain ranges. So these are the various types of continental shelves. So if there are young mountain ranges, then that will result into some kinds of disposition, some kind of sedimentation over here, some erosive sedimentation from the mountains, which will be deposited in the continental shelves. Now, based on origin of formation, now based upon that, the sea level can either rise or there can be submergence of a part of the continent. Now, what happens? Let us come back to the previous slide. Now, supposing this particular area, which is now a continental shelf, supposing it was the land was in over here, the land was over here, and supposing this particular area, which is now over here, was up over here. Now, maybe because of some earth movement, the particular land over here, it has subsided down, it has come down. Now, when it has come down, in doing so, this is the sea level, so it has come down to the sea level. When it comes down from the sea level, the sea will obviously encroach into that part, giving rise to this continental shelf. Or maybe some part over here, maybe the continental shelf was starting from here, from this particular region. Now, maybe there has been a rise in the sea level, maybe for global warming, or there can be various other issues also. Maybe it was starting, and the continental shelf was from here. Now the sea level has risen. Now the sea is from here. The sea level is from here. Now, since the sea level is from here, why? Because there has been a rise in the sea level. When there has been a rise in the sea level, this particular land, which was earlier not under the sea, not under the water, it was above water. Maybe the water was from here, from this particular area. Now this also comes under the water. So instead of this particular region being continental shelf, this entire region now has become continental shelf because of rise in the seawater. It can also occur because of various depositional features brought by the rivers. Now, what are the importance of continental shelves? Continental shelves are very important. Let us see what are the importance of continental shelves. First of all, various marine food comes almost entirely from these continental shelves, and they provide the richest fishing ground. Now, why do they provide richest fishing ground? They provide richest fishing ground because the continental shelves, they are very rich in planktons. And the planktons are like zooplankton and phytoplankton, and they are very good fish food. Because they are very fish food, fish loves plankton, so they will obviously accumulate in those regions, in the continental shelf region, and that is why they are very rich fishing ground. Also, they are potential sites for economic minerals. We find petroleum, gas, various polymetallic nodules like this over here. So we find various minerals, etc., various fuels, etc., from the continental shelves. Now let us see what is the importance of continental shelves for the Indian Ocean. First of all, with respect to oil fields. Now, this continental shelf, as we have seen before, because of fossil fuels, we find a lot of petroleum, natural gas, etc. Now, with regard to oil fields, it holds 16.8% of the world's proven oil reserves, and 27.9% of the proven natural gas reserves are found in the Indian Ocean continental shelves. These are the areas. And if we see about India, then we will find also same thing in India. If we see the western part of India, we will see the Aligarh, the Bombay High, etc., the KG Basin, etc., which boasts of very good oil fields, gas reserves, etc. Also, placer deposits. Now, placer deposits like thorium resources, they are very good as nuclear sources. If you see Kerala's Malabar coast, they have got very good thorium resources. The sands have got very good thorium resources. Similarly, that such kind of placer sand is also found in these regions, and they are important for the electronics industry, semiconductors industry, and also obviously for nuclear power. Then, as said earlier, mineral resources. We find these minerals in the Indian Ocean. Not only in the Indian Ocean, we find it elsewhere also. But since in this slide we are focusing on Indian Ocean, so these are the minerals that are found in the Indian Ocean, and 35.5% of the global iron production is found in this ocean, in the continental shelves of the Indian Ocean. Also, if you see about fisheries, as said earlier, continental shelves means good fishing ground, and obviously, if it is good fishing ground, there will be an increase in fisheries. Tourism, like coral atolls, what you can find example of atoll-induced tourism in the Andaman Nicobar. You will find it in the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, etc. There are a number of people love to do underwater diving to view these wonderful corals. Also, we find mariculture or marine farming. So this is a new concept actually. This is a new concept of aquaculture, wherein freshwater aquaculture is done for marine organisms like various shellfish, prawns, etc. So this is the which obviously yields good foreign currency. So this is the importance of the continental shelf for the Indian Ocean. Now these are some good fishing grounds in the Indian Ocean. As you can see, this is India, and these are some good fishing grounds. And this is the other part, the Indian Ocean, wherein you can see that these are the very good fishing grounds. Now let us come to the next part, that is continental slope. Now as soon as this, I have told you that this is shelf break. After this shelf break starts the continental slope. Just see the difference over here. See the gentle slope over here and see the steep slope. Suddenly it dives down sort of into the oceanic crust. So over here, suddenly from this steep slope is known as the continental slope, which is just after the continental shelf. And the slope gradient over here is more than 2 to 5 degrees Celsius. Sometimes it can be more than that. That is the steepness of the slope. And you can see the depth over here and the depth over here. So obviously the depth is very high, which is about 200 to 3000 meters. And then where the continental slope it ends, also ends the continental crust area. Where the continental slope ends the continental crust area, or we can say where it ends starts the oceanic crust area. So the continental slope marks the end of the continental crust area, and in this region one can find various canyons, trenches, etc. Now next let us see the other major feature, which is continental rise and the abyssal plains. Now over here you see this is the continental shelf. Then comes the steep continental slope, And when the continental slope, after that, we find again a undulating sort of a land or a gentle sloping land, which is called the continental rise. So this is after the continental slope. So this region over here, this continental rise region over here, various deposits are deposited by the rivers or the glaciers, etc., are deposited over here, like silts, mud, sands, etc. Because obviously it cannot be deposited in this steep slope. So they are deposited in this. Some are obviously deposited in this continental shelf, and some are then deposited in this continental rise area. So, and then over here we can find various alluvial fans-like structure. After this continental rise comes the next is this the abyssal plain, is this plain land. After this continental rise comes the next in line is this abyssal plain land. This whole region is the abyssal plain land. Now these abyssal plain lands, these are undulating, as you can see over here, not of exact plain, but an undulating plain land, undulating underwater plain land. And this is the ocean floor also. This abyssal plain also marks the ocean floor. And the slope gradient, as you can see from the picture over here, it is quite gentle. And because it is gentle, again there is a deposition feature. Various kinds of deposits, clay, silt, sand, etc., which are brought by the rivers, are deposited over here. And in this abyssal plains, you will find some minor features also. What are the minor features? The sea mounds, the volcanic islands, the abyssal hills, coral atolls, etc. Now, next let us see about what are the various minor ocean relief features. Till now we were seeing about the major. Now the minor ocean features. First of all are the ridges. What are the ridges? When there are two chains of mountains. This is an example of a ridge. This is the picture of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, which is a very renowned ridge, the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. So this ridge over here, wherever there is a ridge, this is the ocean relief feature. What happens there actually? This ridge out here, there are two sets of mountains, two chains of mountains on either side of this ridge, and which is separated by a large depression, as you can see, a large depression. And this is actually also related to plate tectonics. So over here, from this depression, hot magma or ocean floor, hot magma rises. And as hot magma rises, where it goes, it spreads on either side. It spreads on either side of the ridge. It spreads to this side and this side. When it spreads to either side, that means this results into sea floor spreading. Sea floor spreading, another very important concept of oceanography. So there occurs sea floor spreading. Now because it moves to either side, so this is an example of a divergent boundary. In divergent boundary, what happens? The plates move to opposite direction. So the plate over here, this plate is moving to this direction, this plate is moving to this direction. So this is the example of divergent boundary, wherein new sea floor occurs, new oceanic floor occurs, and it is separated by this depression. Next we come to the trenches. Now trenches are just the opposite in characteristic to the ridges. Now over here what we saw, that over from here hot magma is rising, it is going to either side. In trenches what happens, this is a divergent boundary, and trenches are an example of what? Convergent boundary. Also from plate tectonics, convergent boundary, wherein what happens, one of the part will subside beneath the other plate, will go down beneath the other plate. Instead of coming up, it will go down. One of the plate will go down the other plate. Since it is going down the other plate, so because it is going deep down inside the other plate, So these are what? These are steep-sided depressions, because they are depressions and they are deepest. They are quite very deep. They are very deep. They are V-shaped, deepest part of the oceans, wherein one of the plate will subside will subduct beneath the other, and the very good example of such trench is the Mariana Trench, which is about 11,034 meters. So you can just imagine that the depth is more than the height of Mount Everest. It is such deep. Some of the deep regions within Mariana Trenches, like the Challenger Deep, etc. Then we find the seamount. What is a seamount? As you can see over here, it is a mountain with pointed summits. But see over here, this does not reach the sea surface, the surface of the ocean. These are generally volcanic in nature. We also find Guyot. These are also volcanic mountain, and with a flat top. It is not a pointed top but a flat top, and generally they are not more than 200 meters below the surface of the sea. Next, it is continuing. We find some other features like the submarine canyon, which is what? It is a deep gorge. This is a submarine canyon. It is a deep gorge. See, this is a deep gorge wherein there might be some river valleys, atolls. So what are basically atolls? What are basically atolls or coral reefs? I will explain this from the next slide. These are polyps, coral polyps. These are coral polyps, some kind of organisms, reefs. So when these polyps, they die, so the deposits of this calcareous deposits of these coral polyps are called coral reefs. And see this is the entire coral reef. When a part of the sea is bounded, see this part of the sea, this is the entire sea. When a part of the sea is bounded by such coral reefs, this is entirely bounded, as you can see, then it becomes an island. This particular region becomes an island, obviously. Then we call that as an atoll. And here you can see some of the coral reefs of the world. And generally these atolls have various kinds of trees on them, various kinds of trees on them. So these are the various coral reefs of the world. And here I have given some of the questions from various years that had come in these from oceanography. So thank you all.